Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. How we doing on this fine God-given day? Ready to close the gap between who we are, who we're meant to be, line some goals up and knock them down. I'm excited to get to it. Detrice, good morning. Michelle, Tate, Andrea, Paul, good morning to all you guys. Hope you had a great night's sleep. Went to sleep late after the game last night. Can't lie. That alarm was a tough one to wake up to, but got up. Got my run in, got my sweat in, and I'm happy to dive into what we have going on today. Big Ches, Benjamin, good morning. Happy Friday, my brothers. Great to have you here. Without further ado, let's dive in. Let's get into it, right? Let's get right to it. As always, we're here for one thing. That's to get 1% better, right? If you do that, you have the opportunity to chase your purpose, right? And that's what we're here to do. Money at the end of the day, it can solve some problems, but it just presents a whole new host of other problems. Plenty of people die rich and unfulfilled, right? So that's what we're doing, chasing purpose and fulfillment, is using trading as a leverage tool in order to get there, right? That's really the be all end all. That is the goal. So we never want to lose sight of that. The pathway needs to be malleable, needs to be, versatile, but the goal remains the same, right? You remain steadfast in the goal, but, I guess give some wiggle room to the ways that you achieve that goal. And if you go about life that way, where you keep the goal in the forefront, right, you stay consistent, crazy things can happen. So I'm excited to get into things this morning. So we've got our top news, which is crypto crime. Scrutiny is rising on the role of cryptocurrency in financing terror in the wake of the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel. In a speech set to be given in London this morning, U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo will warn crypto firms against allowing their platforms to be used to finance or support terrorist organizations as geopolitical tensions heat up across the globe. Cryptocurrencies have also gone on a rip in recent weeks, with Bitcoin soaring a total of 30% to as high as 35K, though many have attributed the big run up to short squeezes and growing optimism for the approval of a spot ETF. I want to be clear and say that this is by no means any type of political statement or statement of support of, either side going on in the Hamas and Israel conflict. I am, deeply devastated by all the loss of human life. That's the biggest thing, right? So I just like the members of both sides that are campaigning. Like I saw Jews that were in the Capitol that were campaigning for the ceasefire to happen, right? We just want the end of the loss of innocent human life. So that's what we're all here campaigning for. Just want to make that abundantly clear. But in terms of quotes here, quote, "There are those in the digital asset space who wish to innovate without regard to consequences instead of doing so responsibly, including protecting against illicit financing." Adeyemo will say in his prepared remarks, quote, "Let me be clear. We will use every tool available to go after any person or platform that is facilitating the movement of resources for terrorists. Our expectation is that financial institutions, digital asset companies, and others in the virtual currency ecosystem will take steps to prevent terrorists from being able to access resources. If they do not act to prevent illicit financial flows, the United States and our partners will." Now, crypto research firms Elliptic and BitOck estimate that Gaza-based terror groups have raised over $130 million in crypto since May of 2021, including $41 million by Hamas and $93 million by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, though at times they have paused campaigns due to hostile efforts against donors. Over the past few weeks, the cyber branch of the Israeli police also froze several crypto accounts belonging to Hamas, which sought to garner more funds on social media following its brutal assault. Decentralized finance, also known as DeFi, had once touted the ability to send or receive funds without relying on intermediaries, but enforcement authorities might see a silver lining in being able to pinpoint transactions, addresses, and wallets on a ledger that creates permanent public records. Now, elsewhere, more U.S. Treasury officials are in Qatar this week to explore ways to crack down on international financial support for terrorist groups. U.S. forces have repeatedly come under fire in Iraq and Syria over the past 2 weeks, resulting in 19 troops being diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries, as well as the death of an American contractor who died of a heart attack while trying to shelter during a drone strike. In response, the U.S. launched airstrikes last night on 2 weapons and ammunition facilities in eastern Syria that were being used by Iranian-linked groups. I've talked about it. Again, you want to knock on wood, right? Nobody ever wants to manifest war or anything like that. But the probability of this turning into a world war increased to 50% 2 weeks ago, right? This thing that's going on, this attack that occurred, did not happen, within closed off confines of Gaza, right? There are people that get weapons from places. There are people that supply those weapons. There are people that supply that money. And there is kind of open aggression now that's being shown, and it's bleeding over into the U.S., but also the U.S. is supplying Israel with things. So we're involved already in war. We've been at war with Russia via Ukraine. It's just a proxy battle, right? If my best friend is fighting you and I'm giving him brass knuckles, knives, right, body armor, I'm fighting you. It's the same thing, right? And now we get into actual strikes that are occurring. On Syrian facilities. I don't know when we just cross the line and just call this wartime, but I feel like at this point it is semantics. If we're bombing things, that's kind of considered war. I don't know what the threshold for war is, but I kind of feel like they're going to manipulate it the same way they do the threshold for a recession, right? At first, a recession was just 2 negative consecutive quarters of GDP, or 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP. And then it happened, and then it's like, oh, no, that's not a recession. Technically, it's this, right? It's the same thing now. They're like, oh, well, yeah, we're bombing people, and yeah, we've been in a conflict for over a year, and yeah, there's been loss of American lives and the lives of our allies, but, like, it's not war yet. Semantics. So we'll see, but yeah, a lot of tension continuing to escalate here. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. In terms of economic news, and then of course that can have ramifications for defense contractors, right? Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics. Lockheed Martin is definitely kind of my favorite of the bunch. It's just been consolidating here on the daily. So we'll see kind of what comes of it, but if it can get above that 454, 455 level, it can start to push. That's just been tough resistance in the past. So let's see here what else we got going on. Okay. In terms of economic news, GDP reaction. The first reading of U.S. GDP for Q3 blew every analyst estimate out of the water, especially when most economists had expected the country to be mired in a recession by this time in 2023. The American economy expanded at an annualized rate of 4.9% to reflect the strongest quarter since Q4 2021, exceeding the 4.2% expected and powering up from the 2.1% advance in Q2. The increase was driven by stronger consumer spending, among other variables, with Seeking Alpha users quick to comment on what the fresh data might mean for the Federal Reserve. Quote, based on this strong growth, another interest rate hike by year end is a sure thing, wrote investing group and premium subscriber Value Digger. Again, this is just a normal person, Joe Schmo off the street. Not to discount what he's saying, because I am also a normal person, average Joe Schmo off the street, right? I'm just saying that it's important when you talk about, especially interest rate, predictions, everybody, because this is something that affects your daily life. I don't want you to hear this and be like, Adam told me that we're going to get at least one more hike. Like, no, I'm not saying this, right? This is someone else saying this. It's in quotes. But I think that, it's valuable insight, because again, with the economy still being so strong, so resilient, what does that give them more room to do? Increase interest rates. They're like, okay, we have not decreased demand enough, because what happens if they do drop interest rates? Demand is going to shoot up. All these, renos and all these, investments in real estate, both commercial and residential, these houses will start flying off the rack. Inflation flies right back up. And now we're in a problem that we've prolonged by another 2 years, right? So it's a tough pill to swallow. And it's crazy that the market literally did not care at all. Like, the market did not like the GDP news, did not move on it. And I was shocked, because it was a big beat. Again, it was the strongest quarter since 2021, right? And we're in 2023, going into 2024. So I thought that was pretty significant in terms of the fact that we still went down, right? That should say something. Let's see here. Quote, I think you're getting ahead of yourself, countered too much debt against the first guy that talked. November Fed meeting is currently a 100% chance of no hike, and December Fed meeting is currently at a 75.5% chance of no hike, according to Fed Fund futures. So this is just people arguing in the comments. But yeah, it's not a good sign for interest rates being, decreased anytime soon. In terms of automotive news here, speed bumps. After suspending operations in San Francisco, General Motors, ticker GM's Cruise self-driving vehicle unit is pausing the operations of its entire autonomous vehicle network. Things started to spiral after the California DMV froze Cruise's permits after an October 2nd incident in which one of the company's AVs was involved in a hit and run. Quote, the most important thing for us right now is to take steps to rebuild public trust, Cruise said in a statement. Quote, in that spirit, we have decided to proactively pause driverless operations while we take time to examine our processes, systems, and tools. Besides San Fran, Cruise has operations in Austin, Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, and Miami, Miami. So, yeah, definitely a bump in the road there for GM and Cruise. They've not gotten a lot of good news between the strikes and everything that's happening. So, yeah, another speed bump along the road to autonomous vehicles becoming the norm. In terms of tech news, prime earnings, stock index futures were higher Friday as the broader market faces a second straight down week. But the direction could change as the September core PCE price index arrives along with income outlays. Helping boost sentiment following a mixed bag of tech earnings was Amazon, ticker AMZN, which reported quarterly profits that tripled to nearly $10 billion. Amazon shares rose 5.3% after hours on Thursday to $126, with cost cuts and strong sales brushing aside any concerns. Generative AI is also being seen as worth tens of billions of dollars in revenue, according to CEO Andy Jassy, who is, quote, very optimistic about it. In terms of today's markets, in Asia, Japan, we're up 1.4%, Hong Kong, we're up 2.1%, China up 1%, India up 1%. In Europe, the FTSE in London up 0.3, Paris down 0.6, Frankfurt up 0.4, the Dow up 0.1, S&P up 0.5, NASDAQ up 0.9, crude oil up 2.2%, gold down 0.2, Bitcoin down 0.4% to 34,123. In terms of today's economic calendar, we have consumer sentiment out in 3 minutes at 9 a.m. And then it also says consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. So that's weird. I feel like normally it comes out at 10, so I'll be looking at it at 10, right? I don't know if that was a typo or they got something going on, but yeah, we'll be checking that out. In terms of Amazon, we'll see if we can muster a nice little post-earnings play on Amazon if the opportunity presents itself. Amazon had fired a nice little bear flag on the daily, and it looks like earnings has popped it right above. So 123.04 is the breakout for that. Amazon is bearish beneath. If Amazon gets back beneath that and holds, that would be a beautiful short going into next week. So, a great opportunity for puts on Amazon headed into next week if Amazon does, sell today back beneath that 123.04. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That'll wrap us up here. Oh, nope. We got our rapid fire stock news rundown to close us out. So Ford, ticker F, follows GM in withdrawing outlook for 2023. That's bad when companies, have an earnings report and they just withdraw their outlook. They basically say, I don't know what the future holds because it's that uncertain. And even if I do have an idea, it's too scary for me to share it with you. So both of those are startling realities. Now, PC rebound at Intel, ticker INTC, helps Q3 results blow past expectations. MasterCard's, ticker MA, quarterly gross dollar volume misses consensus. Federal Reserve ends enforcement action against Citigroup. In-Phase Energy, ticker ENPH, plunges on revenue miss and weak guidance. UFC, ticker TKO, taps AB InBev, ticker BUD, and largest ever sponsorship deal. Trouble for Marlboro maker Altria, their ticker MO, smokable products segment. Global economic uncertainty is weighing on this shipping giant. Higher prices help Chipotle, ticker CMG, top earnings estimates. Chipotle traditionally does beat on earnings. And then Google, ticker GOOGL, doesn't want to follow Yahoo down the path to roadkill. That will now wrap us up and take us out on this fine Friday morning, right? Everyone make sure that you get out there, execute today, but also make sure that you operate in patience. Have a safe weekend. I'm going to go ahead and dive into this Loom video analysis so we can talk about getting this money today, ending the week strong. And other than that, have a safe weekend, guys. I'll see you back here on Monday for our next pre-market prep session. Next week, we're in business. Have a good one.